I'm Chris,
And I'm Kylie. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation.
We're interrupting our regularly scheduled program to talk about a special topic today.
What is this special topic that we're interrupting our regular scheduled programming for?
It's near and dear to my heart.
Me?
No.
Sales.
Yes, sales. And Christopher.
It's okay. I know I'm second to sales. It's
Yes.
fine.
Yes. No, I think it's important to talk about sales because I've had a few questionable interactions as of late. And because of this, we are putting together a sales workshop.
All right. So when we say questionable interactions, what do you mean?
Have you ever been in a conversation with a sales professional that just gives you the ick?
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what the ick is, could you explain the term?
Do you want the dictionary definition?
I don't know. Is there one?
I don't know. I'm going to Google it.
Stay tuned. We're Googling.
The ick. It's a term used to describe a sudden feeling of repulsion or disgust towards someone you were previously attracted to, usually in the early stages of a dating relationship.
Which is so funny because I always compare sales to dating. So this is so spot on.
It can be triggered by a specific behavior or personal trait, and the feeling can be so strong that it immediately ends any interest. Immediately ends any interest.
That, I think, is the most powerful part. So my best analogy for sales is to compare it to dating because it's the exact same process of getting to know somebody. And in the back of your mind, when you go on a first date with somebody, you're typically trying to figure out if this person is going to be your match, right? And you want it to work. A lot of times if you've been single for a long time, right, you really want this dating relationship to go well so that you can take it to the next step.
You want some kind of connection. Like, it's nice to have a connection.
Yeah. I mean, intrinsically, we want human connection as humans. We are not meant to do life alone. So, yeah, there's this like innate desire to connect with the other person. But at the end of the day, when you think about how many people are on this planet, right? Like 8 billion, I think is what we're up to now. So of the 8 billion people on the planet, is it realistic that you're going to find your perfect match after one date?
It's not even probable. Like, there's no way. There's too many people. There's too many variables. One is just not enough.
So you're going to have to go on several dates before you figure out, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I don't like this characteristic about them. They don't align with my values. We don't have the same goals. Like, they're allergic to dogs. I've got 2 Frenchies. Like, this just isn't going to work out. More often than not, we go into the date and disqualify somebody. Well, sales is no different. We go into a sales conversation, and depending on how open-minded the person is, they could be sitting there looking to disqualify you and prove in their heads why they don't need whatever you have to sell. Versus if we go into this objectively trying to figure out, like in the dating scenario, if we objectively go into a first date trying to figure out, one, do we even like each other? Like, can we vibe? Do we get along? Do we have things in common? Do I want to spend more time with you? Because that really is like the first question we have to answer. And then from there, it's like, all right, what are our long-term goals? Do we align from a future perspective where we're trying to go in life? Are we trying to go in the same direction? Or do you want to start a family and I want to travel for a living? Like, those are two very different paths that one could go down. So we have to start asking questions objectively with the end goal in mind to try and find clarity. Clarity may mean, hey, we're a great match, or clarity may mean, hey, we're not a good match, but I'm glad I now know you and maybe you'd be a cool friend, or maybe we can just stay in touch, and maybe like your business or what you do in work could help me in what I do in work. Who knows, right? There's a million different directions that a date could go, or maybe you go on that date and you're like, oh, I don't like you, but my best friend over here who's single, you guys would hit it right off.
I think that's the kicker right there. Like, I think that's the thing that the scarcity mindset gets in the way of. Like, not every sale is a good sale. Not every dollar is a good dollar.
Right.
So if you approach it, like you're saying, with the mindset of dating and the open-mindedness of the first date, like, maybe this just isn't going to work for us. But maybe I know 15 other people that could be really into this guy or gal. Like, that could be really cool. I could help them change their life, and maybe they could hit it off and have the best life ever.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, wow, isn't that awesome? I just got my best friend her soulmate.
Exactly. That is, I think, I never understood the correlation between dating and sales. First started dating, you would say there's a correlation, and I'm like, man, it's just a female way of looking at it. And the more you explained it, the more I'm like, holy shit, it is dating.
No, and you know what? So I see this all the time. Like, I could go on for days and days and days. I already have an outline built for a book that I could write on the similarities between sales and dating.
Sounds like a plug for a later thing.
I know, maybe. I would probably need to go hide away for like a month to get that project done, but without dogs. Anyway. No, it very much is a similar process. And if we can look at sales from the lens of dating, we can see where all the missteps are. One misstep is asking too many questions with the end goal in mind. So, for example, if we're on a first date, which we've been on a first date before.
Yes.
And let's say I asked you, so Chris, like, when are you looking to get married?
Leading question. Assuming that I want to get married.
Yeah, for sure. And do you want to have kids?
That's a lot.
And what does your 401k look like? What I'm trying to get a gauge on what retirement options we would have.
Are we just trying to find all the crossing the line questions here? Because that's 3 solid ones that would end the first date for me.
And how do you plan on voting this November?
Even better. That's what you would yell at me as I'm walking out the door.
I jokingly say that this is the point of no return where you would run to the, quote, bathroom and never come back.
Yeah, if somebody asked me my political beliefs, my 401k growth, and the rest of those all in one wallop, I would be like, man, this is impressive.
And this, unfortunately, is what most sales professionals sound like when they ask you qualifying questions, because those are all qualifying questions that you have not earned the right to ask.
I don't think you could restate that last sentence louder and more abrupt and it not be warranted.
Yeah, I see a lot of organizations playing the qualifying game where their most important step in the process is to qualify the prospect, and, we're getting all these unqualified prospects in the pipeline. Well, that is the nature of the business. Our jobs as sales professionals is to qualify. It is to better understand whether or not this prospect is a fit for what we can do, but also, more importantly, we have to figure out, are we a fit for what they need? All too often, we look at the sales process only from our perspective as the sellers. We have a pipeline that is all about how we are progressing the sale, right? Did we get the first meeting? Cool, we're at 25%. Do we have a follow-up meeting scheduled? Cool, we're at 40%. Did we send them our packet of information that they probably just deleted? Yes, cool, 50%. Now, did we quote them on some kind of offering? Awesome. We're at 75%. We're right there at the finish line. And then all of a sudden they go ghost.
Then you're super butthurt because you were 75% down this fictitious timeline that only existed for you.
Yes. What? And it's so crazy to me because this is how most sales organizations have crafted their pipeline. It is not about how you have executed your sales process, because that is something totally different than how the buyer is thinking through their decision-making process.
So let's go backwards here a little bit. So we played out a scenario that I swear is probably about 98% of us listening to this podcast, including myself. I've been in the banking industry, financial planning, sales, and business development my whole life. Like business development my whole life, not banking, but that was it. I mean, we would use like pipe drive, and we'd be judged on how many things we moved over from one lane to another and what percentage we are in what lane. How many do I have going from initial talks to prospect meetings or whatever down the pipeline. We were graded on that and paid by that. Mm-hmm. And I just could never connect the dots because we just had absolutely nothing to do with the customer involved in there. But
well, and the other thing that happens is we leave a meeting and we're like, oh my God, that went really well. And anytime I ask clients, like, what went well, the common answers are they asked a million questions. They were nodding along. I could tell they were really interested. And we told them all about like our history and what we do. And it was great. They really liked us.
Yeah.
The problem is that it doesn't matter if they like you. It really doesn't. That's just table stakes.
Whether or not they want to sit there again or sit through the whole conversation.
And they might have just been obliging you, and it was probably easier for them to ask you questions than for them to have to answer questions.
Yeah.
And if you let them drive the whole time and they asked you a bunch of questions, it has absolutely no indication that they are ready to do anything different and buy from you. None. It just shows that they know how to engage in a conversation.
So how do you break free from that? Because we've been absolutely inundated with the militarial process of A plus B equals C, and you must follow this because this is the way it's done.
Yeah, I think the best advice I can give is to genuinely take an interest in what's going on in your prospect's business or life, because that is going to be the only indicator that you will be able to have that's accurately going to tell you, is what we do going to help them? And are they ready for it? Because even if you can help them and like you feel it in your bones, like I could make their lives easier, or I could make their lives better with what we do, they may not be in a position to do something different or to hire a new vendor or to implement this project or take on this initiative because timing might not be right. There are a lot of factors that go into how people make decisions, and typically we're only thinking about selling from our point of view as the seller and not thinking about, okay, what do they have on their plate right now? Can they really take on an initiative like this? What's it going to look like? What else would they have to do differently? And let's take like working out, for example, right? If I came to you and I was like, hey, Chris, like I'm really unhappy with my current gym. What do you need to know to help me figure out, should I come work out with you at Odyssey Resilience?
God, a slew of things.
Okay, hit me.
First off, what makes you unhappy with your current gym?
Yeah.
Why
okay,
do you
well, let me tell you. So we'll just do this scenario, right?
Yes, I love it.
So my current gym, well, since COVID, the vibe just hasn't really been the same, and my favorite coach left, so I just don't really feel connected to any of the other coaches anymore, and I've been having a lot of knee pain especially like during some of the HIIT workouts. I just feel like my knee is getting more and more upset after every workout.
So why was that guy your favorite coach? And did you have knee pain with your favorite coach?
Yes and no. So I did a special program and I worked on my glutes, and that really alleviated some of my knee pain for a while. And then when COVID hit, it kind of just all went to shit. And so that's when my knee pain came back, when I started working out again. And then my favorite coach was my favorite coach because I felt like he gave me really good feedback on my form and would correct me pretty frequently if I did something wrong so that I wouldn't establish bad habits. And, we also hung out, so we would do community events. So I got to know him as a person and I really liked him. We were just cool.
So these other coaches, what's your relationship with them?
Non-existent. They're really not engaged in any community events. And so I haven't really gotten a chance to know them on a personal level.
So is there anything like equipment wise or programming wise that you don't like about that facility currently?
There's no treadmills, and I'm okay with no treadmills because I'm not a big cardio queen.
Okay. What did you love about it? What was your favorite part about training with your favorite coach? When you look back and you're like, all right, this one was a fucking awesome workout or an awesome week. Like, what was that? What did that look like?
Yeah, we would do random programs where we'd focus on one specific lift for like 6 weeks. And so I'd get really good at benching for 6 weeks. So I really liked that. And then the other thing that I really loved about it wasn't necessarily, like I told you, I already liked the coach, but the community of people that I would be in classes with. So it was group fitness. So I really enjoyed all the people that went there. There were other professionals like me. I'd go at 5:30 in the morning. And so it was like other doctors and like business owners that I would be in the class with, so we could talk shop or we could just like focus on our workout and we joke around, and it just made it a lot more fun working out with other people.
Yeah. So 2 things. One, I love that you're focused on the individual workout. I'm more than happy to offer those services for specific individualized coaching on specific movements all day long. We do not have that community. We are one-on-one coaching.
Okay, so let's just pause right here because Chris did a phenomenal job of incorporating all of what he learned, but he also wasn't afraid to say, hey, we're not going to be that community group fitness class that you had before. And so one thing Chris had to do in order to say that to me was be okay with the fact that he might not be exactly what I'm looking for. So at the end of the day, why did you share that information?
Because it really hacks me off when somebody sells me something I don't want, because they're just telling me all the upside.
So,
or trying to artificially connect the dots to fill in a gap they can't fill.
Right. So let's hear what that could have sounded like. It could have sounded like, oh, well, we have other clients that you might interact with while you're working out here. And it'd be me trying to like pretend like this is a community environment when really this is a one-on-one personal training gym. So it isn't group fitness. It's not going to be what I had before. But then the fact that he brought it to my attention allows me then as the prospect to think through, is this exactly what I want? Or do I feel like group fitness is my only way to get to my goals?
So I could sell you on the package and say, man, we're all about community around here. I mean, I work with my wife. Our dogs are here. Our coaches are friends. Everybody's always working out together. We have a phenomenal community, which none of those are lies. I do get to work with my wife. I absolutely love the shit out of you. I love being able to come and talk to you during the day. Our dogs are everywhere, currently sleeping on the chair next to us. And we do have a good community. We do have a couple people, you included, that work out in the mornings a couple days a week. That is not the answer to the question. That is answering something completely different or going around the point.
Yeah.
You want to really hack somebody off? Do that.
Yeah. So point of this is you can't be afraid to lose the sale by telling them the truth, because the truth will come out. If you're just telling your prospect what they want to hear and not what they need to hear, which is the truth every time, they're going to end up being disappointed in the long run because it's going to feel like a bait and switch tactic that you pulled on them. And the other thing that you have to be able to do is call out the things that might not be exactly what they're looking for. Call out the elephant, right? The elephant in the room was, this isn't a group fitness environment. And are you okay with that? Do you think this could still be a viable option to get you to where you want to go, get you excited about fitness again? If you don't call out the elephants during those conversations, they will become objections later. And you'll be like, I don't know why this deal didn't close. Everything seemed great.
They were excited until they found out what they're going to view as a lie.
Well, and the thing is, when you as the sales professional are going into the conversation solely looking to close a deal, you're not paying attention to those things that don't align with what you want to hear. If you go in with a target in mind, you're only going to listen to the things that align with you getting the outcome you want. You're going to ignore. It's like you have blinders on and you can't see the peripherals. It's like you are only going to ask the questions that you think are going to give you answers that affirm, yes, we're going to the next step. I've had nutrition coaches that I've met with before that have said, so if I hear you correctly, you want to lose weight, right?
Yes.
And you feel like you've tried everything, right?
Yes.
And you feel like this program would help you, right?
Yes.
Now pitch. And here, for just a small price of your firstborn child, you can have all of this and make your dreams come true.
Yay.
And that's what it sounds like when you do salesy, stupid tactics like that. It takes 2 seconds for your prospects to know you're just trying to sell them. Versus Chris saying, this is not a group fitness class.
Yeah.
Do you think that, you would be able to successfully maintain your workout schedule if you didn't have group fitness? Okay, now you've brought the concern to my attention and we can have an objective conversation about it. We can talk through that. No, I still think, as long as I have a trainer working with me, I'll be able to get what I need out of it. The community was kind of just an awesome bonus, but it really, I was there for my fitness. So it really was more important that I have a good coach. And that's what I really feel like is lacking the most. And I tried to work out on my own at LA Fitness and wherever else. And I'm not interacting with anybody. I have my headphones in. I can't talk to anybody. I don't know if my form's right. I don't even know if I'm lifting the right amount of weight or getting the right amount of reps. I really just feel like I need some guidance.
And what you just told me in that sales scenario is literally how I can build the entire rest of our conversations. Like, I now have this framework to go on that answers all of those. Here's how we're going to tell you what kind of weight to lift. Mm-hmm. Here's how we're going to walk through each one of your main lifts. Here's how we're going to do these things. Then all I've done is found all the things that you want or are looking for, and I just align them with the things we actually do.
Yep.
Because we've destroyed this fake version of ourselves in the beginning with honesty.
Well, and I go to a lot of coffee shops, and it takes me about 30 seconds to sniff out the sales professionals in the room. They're always the ones talking the most. With a logoed shirt on, that are leaning forward with somebody else across from them leaning backwards.
They're my favorite.
And I know it's sales professionals are working so hard. This is not a knock on salespeople because I am one. Chris is one too. We both sell, right? So we sell Odyssey Resilience every single day, right? But the thing is, when you go into a conversation, the value you can bring to your prospect is being interested, not interesting, because they want to know that you as the sales professional know them, have heard them, understand their goals and their concerns, And by the time you've done all of that, you've done enough listening, which 80% of your conversations should be listening. 20% then is allocated towards sharing once you've learned enough to say, hey, here are some ideas I have and how we might be able to work together. You tell me, give me your gut reaction. How does that sound? Is that something that could work?
Well, I think part of it too is knowing exactly what you do and your team, exactly how the entire process works, how the entire onboarding works. You have to be a student of your game. If you don't understand what happens after this initial conversation turns into a yes, after you stamp that sales process a go, man, you've really undermined your ability to do great things for your prospect. If that person trusts you because you walked them through the whole thing, so Sharon's going to get a hold of you after this. After this, Dawn's going to reach out to you because Dawn takes care of this. And oh, by the way, after Dawn reaches out to you, you're going to hear from me in 1 or 2 business days, and we're going to make sure this gets knocked out. Then there's absolutely no fear because anxiety comes from the lack of knowledge of what's coming in the future. We remove that. Mm-hmm. And then there's trust and a bond. And it sounds silly, but at the end of the day, you're going to sell way more widgets or whatever the fuck you're selling if people trust the fact that you know what the hell's going on behind it. They might not even like you, but you know what the hell you're talking about. How many people like, I don't know, Tony Robbins? There's a lot of people that think that guy's really annoying, but he's good at what he does. He is good at what he does.
We never want to guilt people into buying from us or bully people into buying from us because that's exactly how you create buyer's remorse. That's the perfect recipe for it. And you think, oh gosh, I don't do that. No, there's a lot of people pleasers out there that can't tell people no. And if you don't give them a comfortable place or a comfortable sense of security to say, no, I'm not interested right now, they're going to go ghost. That's why you don't get responses. It's because you don't have enough of an understanding of what they've got going on in their life. And if they don't have an answer or they don't have the ability to make a decision on buying whatever you're selling, they'll just not respond because ignoring it is easier than letting someone down. It's exactly why our prospects are ghosting. Because they don't feel comfortable telling you no or no, not right now. And instead of just finding some clarity at the end of the conversation and understanding where their head's at, because it doesn't matter how great you think the conversation was. Your opinion is completely irrelevant as the sales professional. Sounds harsh, but the only opinion that matters is your prospects. If you're going to serve them, their opinion matters the most, and we fail to get that opinion a lot of the times.
So when sales teams work with you, what do they learn?
Well, the first thing we focus on is mindset, because how you think going into the conversation is going to matter tremendously. So if on the first date I'm thinking about marriage and walking down the aisle, I'm going to ask questions that are going to make me seem very thirsty. So we have to have our mindset right going into the conversations. And our mindset has to really be centered around helping them. So if that's at the forefront of your brain going into that conversation, that person will leave, the prospect will leave your conversation thinking that was really helpful. Because you were trying to be helpful. So that's the first part. Second part is developing a plan for how we go about expanding our network. Because if you think about what sales really is, it's expanding your network. It's finding the people that can benefit from knowing you. And so there's an intentional way we can do that. And it doesn't have to suck. You don't have to make 500 cold calls a week to expand your network. Some people love being behind the computer and making those cold calls. They don't want to be networking. But there's a lot of people that only want to network and they don't want to make a single cold call. And both approaches work. There's not a secret sauce. There's not a one size fits all to how you bring in business. So the next part of this is once we have the plan and the framework built out, it's okay, how do I do my cold outreach? How do I reach out to people I've never met before and not end up in the spam folder or not end up getting deleted immediately upon hitting the inbox? We have to say things that sound different from what everybody else is saying. Don't even worry about your competition. It's not your competition that you're really competing with. It's all bad sales outreach that you're competing with, because we get dozens of sales solicitations. No matter who you are, you're getting hit up from every angle. Text, junk dials on your phone, LinkedIn messages, in your email. It's everywhere. Social media. I get crap on every single freaking platform that interacts with people. Right? So you're not even competing against other people in your industry or people who do what you do. You're competing against all the other noise out there.
So how do you use that as a framework to like realign how you think about it? If we're competing against the entire world in crappy salesmen or pushy salesmen, how do you reframe that?
You have to be authentically you, because the thing all of the salespeople are trying to do, and even if you use ChatGPT to write your outreach messages, good fucking luck, because a robot writing your message is taking the average of every other sales solicitation out there and just changing up the words. So you are going to sound even more like all the other noise. So if you're using AI to write your outreach messages, I would probably stop that at once. My best advice for outreach is to just be yourself. The trouble is a lot of salespeople don't know who they are. And they've been trained to use certain templates and, say this, don't say that. Well, if everybody's getting the same training, everybody's going to sound the same. So what I coach people to do is sound like your authentic self.
Because that's who they're going to meet at the meeting.
Exactly. When you have a message that does not sound like you, it sounds like I'm getting one of your other split personalities when I see you at a meeting. I'll tell you about this because you're going to hear from Will here soon, a podcast guest of ours. He reached out to me. He's a financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual. He reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, I love the name Odyssey Resilience and would love to hear more about the story. Resilience is a word that really resonates with me. I have fought cancer 4 times and that word means a whole lot to me." Immediately stop what I'm doing and was like, holy shit, I think I need to talk to this guy. Clearly, like, we have something in common. He appreciates resilience. And now he's going to be a guest on our podcast to talk about his story because of a cold outreach that worked, because it was uniquely his. There might be a few other people on the planet that could use that exact message when they reach out, but probably not, because that is Will's story and it is unique to him and he related it to me. So the cold outreach component is a big part of what I coach my sales professionals on. And then the other components that we work on together is strategizing for your calls. So if sales were a professional sport, your prospect meetings are game time.
That helps the context of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you actually looking at?
Well, and the problem is, how many sales professionals just show up and shoot from the hip?
Probably a lot.
And there's times where I'm guilty of this too. I will fail to prep because I'm like, oh, it's just a first meeting. Like, I don't need to prep for this.
I had one not too long ago where I sat down with this gentleman, shook his hand, took a sip of my coffee, and before I set my cup down, he started talking. He talked for 30 minutes straight. 30 minutes. I timed it. I looked at my watch or my my phone when he started talking, and then I just stared at him. I was totally engaged. Like I was listening to what he said, and then it just started to drift off, and I'm like, this is absolutely wild. This is 30 fucking minutes. I learned nothing, but I heard a lot, but it was like mountains of information just blah in my face. And at the end of it, he goes, all right, so how's it sound to buy one of these packages? I said, are you fucking kidding me right now? And he goes, well, I said, how long did it take you to memorize that? That was impressive.
Well, and what are you supposed to do with that information? The problem is he just spewed a bunch of information at you and then is leaving it up to you to figure out how you can do something productive with that information. Versus if you learn a bunch of information about your prospect, you now have the intel you need to pair it with what you have to offer. Whittle down the choices so that the only thing you're sharing with your prospect is the most relevant solution or information or idea that they can do something productive with.
It has to actually matter.
Yes.
If it doesn't actually matter, I don't care if you're going to cut me a deal on a $250,000 Ferrari. I don't give a fuck if you sell it to me for $100,000. All of those things are out of my price range and my wants. That's absolutely relevant to me. Tell me all day long how great that is.
Yeah, and you could give me all the specs and the features on that. What'd you say, Ferrari?
Yeah, irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's so irrelevant that you don't even remember the name of the car 3 seconds later.
I know.
Like that is, I think, is what is the biggest value of your training and your coaching is you have to have something that matches the want, the need, and the passion of the individual you're working with. You have to know them.
Well, and you have to be intentional with your game time, with your conversations. When you get in front of a prospect, how long do professional athletes practice for their 1 hour of game time play?
Well, just personally speaking, I trained for about 8 months to compete in 5 events that take me 60 seconds each.
Yeah.
That's 5 minutes total.
Yeah. No pressure.
Yeah.
And you have to prepare like relentlessly. You have to simulate the pressure. That's what role play does, but people are very uncomfortable doing role play. Well, what are you going to do when you get up there and you've got a 300-pound dumbbell staring at you and you have to lift it over your head?
You better have done some fucking role play, bud, because
Right.
it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't just wing it when you get up there. I mean, you have in certain events, and for some events it goes well, but for other events, not so well.
Oh, yeah, I've gotten my ass handed to me several times.
Exactly.
You just turn around and giggle. Well, that didn't work out well.
Exactly. And then when you layer in additional complexity, like let's say you've got 2 or 3 decision makers that you are talking to, and let's say you've got 2 or 3 people from your team that are coming to the meeting, you now are managing a room full of human dynamics. That's 6 people's energy that you have to align to go in the same direction. And most of the time, we fail to prepare an agenda. We don't prepare questions. We don't have a game plan for what happens if they say they want to talk about this, or let's say they throw you a curveball and they're like, yeah, actually, we don't want to talk about any of this. We have a different idea for how we want to spend today. Or let's say they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. How are you going to reply to that? There's a lot of things that you got to plan for and anticipate for game time. And a lot of times we're not even preparing anything. We're just saying, oh, I'll be good. I'm sure they'll like me. We have good relationships with this company. Or I already know that person. This is a warm referral. Sure, but this is also your game time. For me, I want to optimize every part of this. The meetings that I have put very intentional planning and preparation into, and like, let's say you hand off a lead to me, you and I are going to spend at least 30 minutes talking about conversation that has already been had up until this point. 30 minutes. And then strategizing on, okay, what do I need to know next in order to help them make a decision, in order to figure out if this is going to be a good use of everyone's time.
Well, and where to direct the conversation. It's very powerful if you hand off somebody and that person doesn't have to be recapped.
Right.
Like I've sat down with salesmen, and the salesman I got handed off to recapped the entire previous conversation in like 3 minutes. And I'm like, bro, I want to give you a hug, because now it's just go time. Now we're off to the races.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to sit here and tell you my whole story.
Yep.
How many people have gone through a call center and you explain your problem and you have to go to the next level and explain the problem again, and then go to the next level and explain the problem again? You're ready to murder Susie on the other side of this phone.
After you've already submitted an online ticket to bring this problem to their attention, nothing will get people madder than having to repeat themselves.
Well, then it feels like you don't matter.
Well, it feels like they're not paying attention and that they don't care. And the second we feel like somebody doesn't care about us, we don't care about them.
Yeah.
So last part of this is how we ask questions, because how we ask questions is truly a matter of what we're asking the brain to give us information on. So if we ask questions in a way like, hey, do you have any questions for me? That's a yes or no. Versus if I ask, what questions do you have for me? I've now forced your brain to come up with a question. And most of the time, when I ask that question, what questions do you have for me? They say, well, what would working together look like? I don't even have to fucking sell them on anything. They are asking me for information on what it's like to work with me.
Yeah. So how did you get here? Like, this is obviously like you've worked through the shitty sales techniques and the other techniques and created this. Like, how did you create it?
I've spent majority of my career in sales in some form or fashion, whether I was training salespeople, recruiting salespeople, being a salespeople. It's been the majority of my career. In the last 8 years, I've been a sales coach, and I've studied emotional intelligence, so I understand the emotional aspect of sales. I've studied psychology. I've studied NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, which is how our brain interprets language. So from a copywriting standpoint and a question asking standpoint, that was extremely helpful. And really just understanding human behavior. I've studied humans for so long. When I was recruiting salespeople, I had to quickly figure out what the patterns were so I could shortcut the hiring process and really identify what's going to make successful salespeople. And it's a lot of the same characteristics. And if I can identify those characteristics quickly, I can make a decision faster. So it's studying human behavior and then understanding how humans operate. And, I also got certified in DISC so I could understand how to quickly assess different people I come into contact with and communicate in their preferred style. So, it's all of those things. There's not just one that I think has helped me. It's all of it together and just learning what works firsthand in my own sales conversations.
I love that. So you utilize all of that training to figure out the best way to communicate, take in knowledge, and prepare the salesperson for those conversations.
Yeah. And, I've done a lot of work in it, but that's why I love doing these workshops and coaching other people, because if I can help other people shortcut the process so that they don't have to take all of those personal development courses and certifications, find success quickly and efficiently, I don't think it has to be overly complicated. I think sales is simple. We overcomplicate it.
Yes, 100%. So how do people get a hold of you in order to do this?
Well, we've got a sales workshop coming up we're going to be doing these on a quarterly basis, but we've got an upcoming sales workshop kicking off September 18th. So if you want to participate in that with us, it's $1,500. It's about 7.5 hours of live coaching over Zoom and 1 hour every week on Wednesday afternoons. And we'll be gathering people across different industries with a sales focus and walk through 6 different components to the sales process. One is the mindset that we touched on, prospecting, cold outreach, asking effective questions, understanding the conversation process, and managing your time effectively. Because I really, truly believe that those 6 things, if you can master those 6 or at least be competent in those 6 areas, you're going to do really well in your sales career. And of course, there's other ways we can go deeper on so many other areas of sales, but I think those are kind of like the foundational building blocks that if you can get good at those and have a solid foundation, you're going to do just fine.
I love it.
Yeah, so reach out to us. We'll get you more info. We'll get you the link to sign up, and you can join us for our next sales workshop.
Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
And follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.